I'm going to rank the Daryl Hall and John Oates albums. This is my favorite band of all time. I love Daryl Hall and John Oates. I'm not going to rank the Christmas album because it's kind of weird. It came out in 2006. One word for the Christmas album, it was kind of disappointing. I mean, I wanted Hall and Oates to come out on that album and shake my booty, and it's just too mellow. But it's okay, it's good. Now let's start with the Daryl Hall and John Oates discography. Number 17, I'm going to go with 1972, the first album, Whole Oats. It's kind of lost. The best tracks, unfortunately, there are no great tracks. And I love Hall & Oates, but this album does not hit my turntable too often. The worst tracks, though, Georgie, Water Wheel, Lazy Man Stinks, They Needed Each Other, Southeast City Window, Thank You for Stinks. Thank You for Stinks. I mean, I love this band, but that album is just dead last. Now, at 16 is Marigold Sky from 1997. I hate to hate on this record because, I mean, man, in 1997, it was so hard for anybody from the 70s or 80s to gain any traction. Motley Crue couldn't even sell a record. How the hell is Daryl Hall and John Oates going to sell a record? I so badly wanted this album to be great, but it's not great. Marigold Sky is mediocre. The best tracks on Marigold Sky, well, I don't think there are any. There is not one track on there that I would put in my shuffle. The worst tracks, though, Throw the Roses Away, Promise Ain't Enough, War of Words. These songs stink. Now, 15, I got the album Our Kind of Soul, 2004. There's only 3 original songs on this whole record. It's 14 covers. My problem with this record is the cover selections don't make any sense to me. If I had to put one word to Our Kind of Soul, it's why. Why did you do this? If you were going to really, hit the world with covers, bring some freaking covers. These covers are predictable. They're not great. They're certainly not better than the originals. The best tracks, though, I'll Be Around. I love it. I Can Dream About You. I can dream about you. Love it. But the worst tracks, though, tracks 7 through 17 are just not good. I mean, after track 6, you got 10 songs of filler, and it is just brutal. The worst songs, Neither One of Us, After the Dance, Rock Steady, Love TKO, What You See Is What You Get, that's just dopey. Can't Get Enough of Your Love, You Are Everything. These are just mediocre tracks. At 14, though, is Along the Red Ledge. There were like 87 guitar players who played on this record. A lot of Hall & Oates fans just love this record. I have one word for this record. And it's not that I don't love some parts of it, but this record is just flat. I mean, George Harrison played on it. Rick Nielsen from Cheap Trick played on it. Robert Fripp played on it. Todd Rundgren played on it. And this album is so bland, I can't listen to it. And Hall & Oates are my favorite band, but when I'm looking at Bigger Than Both of Us, when I'm looking at the Silver record, when I'm looking, I'm not going to put on Along the Red Ledge. The best tracks, though, It's a Laugh is great. I Don't Want to Lose You. Those 2 songs are amazing, but the worst tracks, Have I Been Away Too Long, Alley Cats. Alley Cats stinks. Soul Love. Pleasure Beach. I don't know. So mediocre. If you like anything I say, please hit subscribe and like. At 13, I have Change of Season, 1990. Now, 1990 is kind of still in the Hall & Oates pop era. Nirvana hasn't yet killed everything. But one word for Change of Season, it's just kind of boring. The best tracks, So Close, Don't Hold Back Your Love. Great songs. The worst tracks, Sometimes a Mind Changes. Number one, that title is too long. Give It Up, in quotations, Old Habits. That'd be okay to use quotations if the song is good. The song just isn't good. Halfway There, Only Love, Heavy Rain, just not good songs. Number 12, Oh Yeah, with exclamation mark. 1988. One word, continuance. It was trying to keep the sound that made the 80s. Let's look at our great 80s records. Of course, Private Eyes, H2O, Big Bam Boom. They were on a tear. Maybe one of the most publicized bands by MTV. Somehow a 6-foot something blonde god and a short, maybe Italian guy with a weird mustache made MTV gold. This band is just, from start to finish, can't figure them out. They're my favorite band. But anyway, Oh Yeah, they tried to keep up the 80s, and it was okay. Everything Your Heart Desires. Of course, we love that song. But the worst tracks on Oh Yeah, Talking All Night, Rocket to God, Soul Love. Number 11, now we're kind of getting into that coolness. Ecstatic from 1979. One word for ecstatic, it is funky. The best tracks, Wait For Me. Is Wait For Me maybe the greatest Daryl Hall and John Oates song ever? It just might be. The song Wait For Me alone puts this album in legendary status. But let's talk about, unfortunately, some not so good tracks. Well, I love it because there are no terrible tracks. There's a lot of mediocre tracks. Tracks 4 through 12. Really, 4 through 12. 80% of the record just is on, and just should I put on, Big Bam Boom? But Ecstatic it's good. Now, number 10 is War Babies. This is a killer, crazy record, 1974. This record is looking at the world, the country. It's a weird record. There are times in this record of War Babies, I kid you not, you would think you were listening to early Genesis, of course, Peter Gabriel days, or some Pink Floyd. This album gets very psychedelic at times, and it's shocking because you're thinking of, you make my dreams come true. Ooh. No, this ain't nothing like it. War Babies, it's psychedelic. The best tracks, Beanie G and the Rose Tattoo. Beanie G and the Rose Tattoo is freaking awesome. Unfortunately, though, it's got some mediocre tracks. War Baby, Son of Zorro. I'm Watching You, A Mutant Romance. Screaming Through December. I don't quite get those tunes, but War Babies is really neat. You gotta check this record out. It is really cool. Number 9, Voices. Voices is kind of where they switched gears. One word, it was the transition. Now, this is going to pain me to say this. Most of us, I grew up in the 80s, most of us think of Daryl Hall and John Oates as Man-Eater, Private Eyes, One-on-One, Family Man. They were a whole different band in the 70s, and in the 70s, John Oates was the guy. He wrote the hits. He wrote most of the tunes. When he went into when Daryl Hall and John Oates released the Silver record, John Oates went in to the president's office and they said, "What's going to be your lead single?" And he said, "Well, Camellia." He presented it for him. And Daryl Hall was not there. My point is that John Oates is the most underrated person, player, musician in all of rock and roll. In the 70s, John Oates pioneered all of the 70s Hall & Oates. And the 70s Hall & Oates is the best. I love the 80s. It's fun, it's cool. But dig into some 70s Hall & Oates. It warms my heart. I need to move on. Voices in 1980 started to switch to Daryl Hall. I love Daryl Hall. He is amazing. He's the best singer in the band. But John Oates could not switch to the 80s. He couldn't do the keyboards, the synthesizers. He couldn't transition. He tried, and it was really bad. So Voices is the transition record to Daryl Hall. The best tracks, How Does It Feel to Be Back, which is a John Oates song, opening the record with a John Oates song, like all the other records pretty much, but You Make My Dreams Come True, great. Every Time You Go Away, great. That's a Paul Young song. The worst tracks, though, You Lost That Love and Feeling. Now, I gotta say, You Lost That Love and Feeling is great. There are only 2 times I want to hear You Lost That Love and Feeling. I want to hear it when the Righteous Brothers do it, and I want to hear it when Tom Cruise does it in Top Gun, the original Top Gun, because the second Top Gun stinks. I don't want to hear Daryl Hall and John Oates doing You Lost That Love and Feeling. It's a popular tune. A lot of people like it. I wish it wasn't there. Now, the worst tracks, though, after You Lost That Love and Feeling, Africa. John Oates, not good. Diddy Doo Wop. Cut Diddy Doo Wop. Why is Diddy Doo Wop on there? It doesn't make no sense. The song stinks. If you like anything I say, please hit subscribe. Please hit like. Number 8 is Do It For Love, 2003. One word for Do It For Love. Well, it's surprising. I mean, I was not expecting anything great. Only because of the time. I already had my fill of Daryl Hall and John Oates. They already cemented themselves into legendary status in my ears. Do It For Love was surprisingly good. The best tracks, Man on a Mission, great. Do It For Love, great. Forever For You, great. However, though, the worst tracks on Do It For Love, Heartbreak Time, Something About You, they're okay, Number 7, though. Number 7 is 1977, Beauty on the Back Street. A lot of people really like this record, and I love it too, but a lot of people say it might be top 1, top 2, top 3. I wouldn't go that far. But Beauty on the Back Street, one word, is kind of forgotten. Because, when you talk to Daryl Hall and John Oates fans, they talk about all the records around Beauty on the Back Street. But yet, Beauty on the Back Street is considered to be a great record, so I'm not really sure why it's kind of forgotten. The best tracks, Why Do Lovers Break Each Other's Heart? Great song. You Must Be Good for Something. Well, I hope so. I hope this video is good for something. Bad Habits and Infections. Beauty on a Back Street is great. 1977. I mean, we're right in it. The worst tracks, though, only one. The Girl Used to Be. Not great. Number 6. The first record I ever bought in my life. The first 12-inch. H2O. What a monumental record. Unfortunately, though, it was lopsided to Daryl Hall. Great songs, John Oates songs, not so good. And that stinks because that was pretty much the formula of the 80s. Daryl Hall wrote great songs, John Oates wrote filler. And I hate that because John Oates is my favorite, and the 70s Hall & Oates are the best, and John Oates was the greatest 70s Hall & Oates. Oh... But H2O was the first record I ever bought, and I just love it. The best tracks, of course, Maneater. You kidding me? Maneater, I believe, was written about New York City, and I believe that John Oates brought it in, and I think it was a reggae beat. Oh, here she comes. Watch out, push you up, and Daryl Hall said, hey, let's change it over to more of a rock beat. Well, good thing they did. Great freaking song. Crime Pays, Daryl Hall song. I just love Crime Pays. Crime Pays might be my favorite Daryl Hall and John Oates song, one of them. But Crime Pays might be the most forgotten song for the simple fact that nobody seems to talk about it, and it might be the greatest tune of the 80s. One-on-One. I did not love One-on-One when I first bought the record because I was in 3rd grade. And I never liked the phrase, I want to play with you, girl. I want to play with you, girl. Just you and me. You and me. And only because I'm 12 years old. Now that I'm older, that line doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean anything. They might just dance or have a drink by the fire. But I didn't understand what that meant. Now that I'm older, One-on-One is a masterpiece frickin' song. When I was younger, I didn't like it. I love it now. Family Man. Family Man's actually a cover song, and I didn't know that when I was 12. Still frickin' awesome. Now, let's talk about the worst tracks, though. Italian Girls. That is John Oates. I love John Oates. Oh my God, have I mentioned that John Oates was the reason that Hall & Oates even had a band, even the 70s even had success, was because of John Oates? Well, he didn't adapt well to the 80s. Italian Girls, it's fine, it's cool. But the funny thing is, if Italian Girls had Daryl Hall singing it, it might be a Stone Cold classic. You know, John Oates in the 70s had this natural baritone voice. But in the 80s he went to, I see, oh la la. I'm like, what are you doing? You were an incredible folk singer. Sarah's off on a turnaround, flying gambling fools to the Holy Land. That was John Oates in the 70s. And then he turns into this high opera. I don't get it. All right. Where the heck am I? At Tension. The song At Tension. Oates. Terrible. You know, H2O could be a freaking monumental record if it didn't have the John Oates songs. And that kills me because John Oates is my favorite #1 guy. And we're going to get to that. Number 5 is Private Eyes. Now, Private Eyes is a tough one for me to put in this position because when I rank the records, Private Eyes and H2O were tied. How I rank records, I listen to each song, I give it a grade 1 to 4. I add up all the grades, I divide by the number of songs, and I get a mean average. So each album has a, Do It for Love, 2.32. Beauty on the Back Street, 2.39. H2O, 2.59. And that's me being geeky. H2O and Private Eyes came in absolutely to the 100th decimal place, tied. But I put Private Eyes ahead of H2O. One word for Private Eyes, it's cool. It is cool. I mean, right from the start, right from the band, Daryl Hall and John Oates in their detective outfits and all. Of course, that'd be a little geeky now, but in 1980, what was it, 1983? 1981, shoot. It was cool. The first 45 I ever had, the first piece of music I ever had was Private Eyes 45. And I went down to my basement in Ohio, because in Ohio they have basements. I'm in Florida now, there's no basements. And I would put this 45 and I would just listen to it 30, 40, 50 times a night for months. And then, of course, I went out and bought my first 12-inch, my first 12-inch. And it was H2O, Hall & Oates. And then after that, I bought the 12-inch of the album Private Eyes. Private Eyes is just so cool. The best tracks, the title track is so good. I Can't Go For That, No Can Do. Is there a slicker tune than I Can't Go For That, No Can Do? I mean, it kind of sounds weird. I can't go for that, no can do. Well, that's freaking gold. And that's why that song will be played on dance floors for many generations after I'm gone. Did It in a Minute, so good. Head Above Water, amazing. And Friday Let Me Down, which is an Oates song. Now, John Oates came through with a killer cut on this record. Friday Let Me Down, killer John Oates song. Have I told you about how much I love John Oates? We're going to talk about that more later. But Head Above Water, this is a killer tune because, not only is it a great tune, apparently Daryl Hall and John Oates wanted to name Private Eyes Head Above Water. Record label management, who knows, said, let's call that Private Eyes. So the folklore is 1 year later when they did H2O, they called it H2O because they were still kind of bitter about Head Above Water did not get used as a title. I mean, I don't know. But Head Above Water is awesome. It might be my favorite Daryl Hall and John Oates song of the 80s. Of course, Friday Let Me Down. I know I've already mentioned that, but Friday Let Me Down, John Oates song, incredible. Friday Let Me Down. Unreal. The worst tracks, though, Private Eyes. Mono a Mono. Well, that's John Oates. Mono a Mono. Oh, Unguarded Minute. Only so. Your Imagination. Your Imagination. See, I'm trying to reiterate how bad they are by my bad singing. And of course, Some Men stinks. If you like anything I say, please hit subscribe and like. Now we're getting into the top 4. And I'm so excited because this is my favorite band of all time. It might not sound like it, but man, I just love this band. Number 4 is Big Bam Boom. 1984. I never loved Big Bam Boom. I was a Private Eyes guy. I was a H2O guy. A Voices guy. Big Bam Boom to me at the time was too flashy, too MTV. It was really weird. John Oates is like banging on a drum and the drum is like 100 times taller, bigger than him. It didn't make no sense to me. I was not a fan of Big Bam Boom. But when I listened to each song and gave each song a grade from 1 to 4, added up the songs, divided by the number of songs, Big Bam Boom came out ahead of Private Eyes and H2O. If I was to play a Daryl Hall and John Oates album now, I'd grab Private Eyes or H2O. I would not grab Big Bam Boom. But Big Bam Boom is a more consistent record. I'll grab Big Bam Boom. I'll play it. I'll play it out. But one word, Big Bam Boom, was the peak. I mean, it was the peak. We're never going to see that again. I mean, Daryl and John Oates, they went from the 70s built so good. Once they hit Voices, bam. Once they hit Private Eyes, bam. Once they hit H2O, MTV Darlings. Big Bam Boom was a huge selling record, but it completely rode the waves of what came before. And you know what? It's awesome. It's fun. One word, it was the peak. It was the peak. It was the peak. Daryl Hall and John Oates were peaking. Unfortunately, though, for me, they were peaking on that 80s sound. I would love to know what would have happened if they had continued the John Oates 70s sound. Would they have become, the next folk rock master band? Probably not, because at that time period, nobody wanted to hear that crap. That's why they switched. So Daryl Hall switched them. Good for you. Smart move. The best-selling duo of all time. Daryl Hall and John Oates are in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame because they are the best-selling duo of all time. And not by a little bit, Daryl Hall and John Oates are the best-selling duo by 3 times. It's not even close. Big Bam Boom. The best tracks, Out of Touch, amazing. Method of Modern Love, amazing. Some Things Are Better Left Unsaid, freaking amazing. The worst tracks, though, on Big Bam Boom, Cold, Dark, and Yesterday. No, I don't really dig that tune. And All American Girl. I don't dig that tune at all. But Big Bam Boom is sweet action. If you like anything I say, please hit subscribe and like. Number 3, we're going BD into the self-titled. The self-titled album, Daryl Hall and John Oates. Now, it's called the Silver Album. It's not their first record by any means. RCA was their new record label. Atlantic was, and then they went to RCA. So RCA said, let's name the first record Daryl Hall and John Oates. I'm not even sure if the album was named that. It might even be untitled. I don't know. But it's a silver record. Daryl Hall looks like a woman. John Oates looks like a guy who wants to be a woman. And the crazy thing is, when you pull out the cover, now we're talking here about 1975. This is when David Bowie was being all androgynous, and for whatever reason it was kind of cool to look androgynous. It was really cool for dudes who were very hairy and dudey, trying to be clean and sexy. Really weird time. If you get a hold of a original John Oates and Daryl Hall 1975 RCA Silver Album. I love the record. You pull it out. Daryl Hall was in a leather suit like this, and John Oates is laying down naked, completely naked, and he has something over his his whatever. It's the craziest thing I ever seen. This album, the cover and the inside cover, is insanity. Nobody in any decade would go, yeah, that's a good idea, I want to do that. I don't know how they were talked into doing this. I know that David Bowie was all kind of, weird, but Daryl Hall and John Oates were an R&B group. They were an R&B group What the hell are you getting naked and putting your least attractive guy naked? I'll never get it. Just look up the inside cover of the silver record, 1975, the first RCA record. Look up, just hit Google Images. You will see a picture that will make you never want to listen to Daryl Hall and John Oates again. Not the cover. The cover, Daryl Hall looks like a complete woman, and John Oates looks like a man who's confused. But the inside cover is disturbing. The album is freaking awesome. The 1975 silver record called Daryl Hall and John Oates is awesome. This record is awesome. You listen to the songs and you look at the cover and you go, how in the hell are these two even on the same platform? I love the 1975 silver record. It is so good. One word for me, it's misunderstood. I mean, like I just ranted, it's misunderstood. This album is great. People see the cover, and they go, oh, I'm not going to like that. Well, I don't like the cover either, but listen to it. This is the same guys in the 70s sitting around with a brew and just jamming on a couple acoustic guitars. This is not what the cover. Oh, what a misunderstood record. And that stinks because this record might be one of the greatest records of the 70s, but the cover throws it off so much. All right. The best tracks, Camellia. Another time when John Oates went into the record label, at this time RCA, and they said, what do you got to give us? He goes, Camellia. And he played it for him. And they said, yeah, that's a good single. We'll go ahead and start the record with Camellia. My whole point of this is Daryl Hall is amazing, but he was not the focal point in the 70s. It was John Oates. Love John Oates. Sarah's Smile is on there. Of course, now that's Daryl Hall. Nothing at All. What an amazing song. Gino the Manager. I mean, what a great song. Gino, no, 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 no. What a great tune. I'm not going to say Daryl Hall isn't great. Daryl Hall is amazing and Daryl Hall is essential. I just want people to appreciate John Oates. The worst tracks, though, on the self-titled record, the silver record, the first record on RCA 1975, there are no bad tracks. This is a great album. This is a classic album. If you're a Daryl Hall and John Oates, if you're even curious about Daryl Hall and John Oates, get the silver record. You will love every single track. Number 2 is Bigger Than the Both of Us. Now this came out in 1976. Bigger Than the Both of Us. Really weird cover. They're sitting in, like, I don't know, some skyscraper hotel room. They got some rich crackers. They got some wine glasses. I'm not really sure. I really like the fact that it's natural. It's organic. Now let's talk about Bigger Than the Both of Us. This album is crazy awesome. Bigger Than the Both of Us is insane. It came out right before disco. You know, all these disco beats that we did from 70, what was disco? 77 to 79? Just about every beat you heard in disco, Daryl Hall and John Oates did in 76 on Bigger Than the Both of Us. One word, it is smooth. This album is smooth. Bigger Than the Both of Us is a freaking masterpiece. The best tracks, Back Together Again. Rich Girl. You know, Rich Girl was originally called Rich Guy. Daryl wrote it about Sarah, who pops up in a bunch of tunes, his girlfriend. But apparently Sarah's ex-boyfriend was a rich guy. And Daryl wrote a song that went, "You're a rich guy and I'm going too far and you know it don't matter." It wasn't, the record label didn't like it. They said, change it to Rich Girl. He said, okay. But the song is written about a dude. Crazy Eyes, John Oates. John Oates, Crazy Eyes. You listen to Crazy Eyes, John Oates digs, and I mean digs. He, with his vocals, John Oates digs. I can't even get him. John Oates is a digger. He is amazing. Crazy Eyes kicks my butt every time. The worst tracks, though, on Bigger Than Both of Us, there are none. This album is a freaking masterpiece. You know, Room to Breathe. Room to Breathe. If I had to pick a song, Room to Breathe could be cut. But it's still good. Bigger Than the Both of Us is outstanding. But the number one album by Daryl Hall and John Oates, please hit like and subscribe if you like anything that I say. Abandoned Luncheonette. Abandoned Luncheonette might be my favorite album of all time. I put it against Graceland by Paul Simon and Abandoned Luncheonette by Daryl Hall and John Oates. Abandoned Luncheonette is insane. This album is such, I hate to keep using the word masterpiece, but this album is just a masterpiece. It is crazy. I mean, it is so good. When I put it on to this day, I'm amazed how good it is. It was released in '72. Nobody bought it. There wasn't a push. And then later, they released She's Gone. That's track 4. And it took off. And then the record label pushed the record. Then the record started selling. The record started selling, 2 years after. And the record sold. Abandoned Luncheonette is maybe my favorite record of all time. The best tracks, I can't even say because every song is amazing. When the Morning Comes, insane vocal harmonies. Had I Known You Better Then, John Oates. Masterpiece. Las Vegas Turnaround. John Oates wrote it about Daryl Hall's girlfriend, who was Sarah. Las Vegas Turnaround, flying gambling fools. He was talking about Sarah. Sarah is monumental in this band. Sarah was the stewardess on the Las Vegas Turnaround. But John Oates wrote it about Sarah, but Sarah was dating Daryl. Fascinating. She's Gone. She's Gone is just an amazing story. So John Oates on New Year's Eve goes to a diner. He's alone. We all been there. He's having probably some scrambled eggs and maybe some burnt sausage. He looks over and sees a girl who's by herself. He goes up and says, "Hey, I see you're alone." She says, "Yeah, blah, blah, blah." Who knows why? He says, "Let's hang out." She goes, "You know what? Let's do it. New Year's Eve." He gives her his apartment address. John Oates goes home, gets ready, brushes his teeth, sits on his couch. The girl don't show. She stiffs him. So he picks his guitar up and writes the song She's Gone. This is insane. This might be the greatest Daryl Hall and John Oates song ever. She's Gone. And John Oates wrote it getting stiffed by a stranger in a diner on New Year's Eve. You can't make this up. What a song. I'm just a kid, don't make me feel like a man. Another John Oates song. I'm just a kid, don't make me feel like a man. Now, when I was young, I didn't get it. I had this record when I was 12, and I listened to, H2O, Private Eyes, and then, I'm just a kid, don't make me feel like a man. I'm like, I don't get it. Of course, because I was 12. Now I get it. This song is amazing. I'm just a kid, don't make me feel like a man is insane. Freaking awesome. Maybe my favorite Daryl Hall John Oates song ever. The title track, Abandoned Luncheonette. Are you kidding me? This song is so epic. How is this song not played at Super Bowls? Lady Rain. What a bass line. Lady Rain. Oh my God, Lady Rain is insane. Every time I look at you is so good. Abandoned Luncheonette is an absolute masterpiece. It is a must-own. Just immerse yourself in that record. Laughing Boy, some people at first don't quite get it. Daryl Hall and a trumpet. Laughing Boy! And there's a trumpet playing and Daryl Hall singing. Some people don't get it at first. You'll get it. Laughing Boy is amazing. Just give it time. Laughing Boy is amazing. If you like anything that I said, please hit like and subscribe. I love Daryl Hall and John Oates. They are my favorite band ever. Peace.